Okay, hi. So this is the workshop series, and today we'll be doing Firebase Suite. So the project that we're doing is like a mock social media app. It uses React as the front end, and also we'll be using Firebase as the different products that will support the front end. So things like authentication, hosting, and storage. So why we use Firebase is because it is serverless, which means that you don't have to handle too many things under the hood, and you only have to handle the important things, which actually saves you a lot of time. And this is good for smaller projects because they do not need too much configuration on the server resources and the virtual machines, all that, because they'll be handled for you by the Firebase and the Google resources. So the prerequisites is that we need to have Node installed as well as npm, and Node has to be at least version 18, which is one of the later ones. You also have to have Python installed, and also you have to have some experience with programming. So uh, for those who are newer, it'll be a bit harder to follow. Yep. So to make this process easier, actually, you can download the icon, which will be in the GitHub that I can share. So if you go to the public folder, there will be the icon which we will use. However, this is not too necessary. At the same time, there's also the CSS files where I've defined the styling in advance so that you don't have to uh, copy all my styling, and makes it a lot easier. Okay, so to get started, this is VS Code, my IDE, and this is where we'll be doing the application. So just now I've already done create React app. So type this command npx create React app eco app, and this will create the eco app folder. So this is a standard React application which we can use to run the front end. Yep. So after that, what we want to do is that we want to drag everything out so that we can access everything on the root level, and we can delete this folder. So now this whole GitHub repository is our folder that we'll be using for the application. So if we run npm start, we can actually start the server, and it will open a very base application. So yeah, so this is the base application, and we can actually configure it from there. So to check your node version, you just type node-v. Mine is 20, but as long as it's 18 and above, it's okay. So what we want to do is first we want to define, make sure that we define the engine properly. So make sure that Google knows we're using 18 and above uh, as our node. Then the next what we want to do is that we want to remove unnecessary code. So we want to go to the index.html and remove some of the unnecessary link tags. Right. So some of which will be the Apple Touch icon and the manifest. This won't be used, and then we can name our application. So maybe ecogram. So when we save, when we run the app, I believe we will be able to see the change. Yep, so now it says ecogram. So this HTML file is just the base that we'll be using. Right, we can remove like our extra tag. After which, so to configure the icon and all that, you can just replace the favicon with your own one. So I just delete this and use the one that I shared. Hold on. You know, uh, Okay, so this will be the icon that we'll be using. And then what we want to do next is that we want to, okay, so we can start on the app from here. Make sure you save everything before you move on. So for a start, this is our body, okay, and this is where the application runs. So thing is, uh, so this is what we saw right just now, and what we want to do is that we want to remove all this and actually add our own code. So all we have to do is we can just leave the div, the app here, okay, remove everything, and then we can really say hi. And what it will do is that it will update that, and so now all we have is the hi. Uh, yeah. So the good thing about React is that once you save, it automatically kind of compiles the changes and updates it on the spot, which makes it so good. Okay, what we want to do next is that we want to move on to Firebase configurations. So we can just open Firebase console, firebase.google.com. So we can go to the console. So normally your Firebase project will be empty, right? But I'll start a new project. Okay. GFE shop demo. So this should be unique, and you can just turn off analytics for now. And what we'll do is we are creating a Firebase project, and this is how we'll connect our application to Firebase, and we can use the products in the Firebase Suite. So we just need to do one set of configuration, and then afterwards we can use the products, and everything will be linked to our account. So once we press continue, we'll be directed to this a web page, right? So this is your own console for your own Firebase project. What we'll do is that we want to go to the settings in our project and start an app. So ours is a website, so we should choose web app, okay, and then give it a nickname. So I'll say Ecogram. Okay, you can start posting later and register it. So the instruction says we should install Firebase, right? So if you haven't, make sure you install Firebase. To open a separate terminal in the same place. So this will be installing Firebase. At the same time, we should initialize Firebase and use the software development kit. So what we want to do is that we want to, while it's installing, we can create a new file. Okay, we can remove some of the less important files. We can create a new file called firebase config.js. So it's where we'll store the configuration and access to the app. So from here, what we can do is we can just paste whatever we have over, right? So, but right, you can just access Firebase right from this app. Okay, so while it's installing, okay, there's an error right here in app.js. So because we removed the logo, okay. So while this is installing, we can also install another one called Firebase Tools. So this is to help us be able to access Firebase from our code environment. Okay, so while this is happening, continue console. So we can start with hosting. So open hosting from here, the build, and there's a hosting tab, and you can get started. So let's say we can install Firebase tools. We will be installing. Looks like Firebase is done. So you can verify it by going to package.json and checking whether it's really installed. So Firebase is installed. Okay, then next after we're done with the installation, so we'll wait a bit. You will be able to log in to Firebase and then initialize the project for deployment to the cloud. So after all these steps, actually this ecogram will be accessible to everyone online through a URL. So the good thing is Firebase handles all the DNS routing for this, so you don't really have to handle anything. So as stated, you just log into Firebase. Okay, so mine is already logged in, and what we want to do is that we want to use Firebase init to initialize this project. So yes, I am ready to proceed. What we're going to do is we just want to set up hosting, configure files, and optionally create actions. Oops. Okay, so use spacebar to select the feature lah. Okay, and then next we want to use an existing project, which will be the one that we are using now, the demo. What we want to use for the public directory. So we have to use build. So build is what we will build the app into. Later we can I'll show you. Configure it as a single page. You can just put no first automatic build. No. Okay. And yeah, so it'll create a build file for us. Actually, we can run build again just to make sure we build the application in. So for those one you want to React, this build actually creates like a production level build of your application, so it can be deployed online, right? So now what we're going to do is we want to deploy it. So it's around Firebase deploy and then create a flag that says only hosting. And what this will do is it will take the deployment files from build and hopefully it will be hosted online. Yep, so it's a hi. I'm not sure why there's a S. And yeah, so we're done with the hosting. It's the first step. And then next what we want to do is that we want to work on the storage and the authentication. So we want to set up Cloud Firestore. So Firestore is like a NoSQL database. Basically it means you don't have to manage like the relation between data. And this is good because sometimes it allows for like simple queries. You don't have to do too much. You just have to focus on the data, and oftentimes it's also faster because queries take a lot of time. So as we create a database, we want to select Singapore, the CDN. Yeah, and then we have to start in test mode. So if you are doing this for like a hackathon or that, you can accept your custom rules, but we're going to do test mode. So this means that anyone can really access your database. This for simplicity. Now we create it. So now with the collection created, the important thing now is that we want to make it accessible. So we can just remove all this and just allow read write to anyone. But let's say you can customize this and we want to publish the changes. Okay. So essentially this allows our application to access the database. Then we can just start a collection called maybe post because uh okay, never mind. This one you can do later. Right. So now we can go back to our application. And what we'll do is now since everything is exposed, right? Let me find the configuration. Anyone can see this if you upload to GitHub. So to make this secure, we have to create a .env file. Okay. And what this does is that um, we can we can save it all as like code words. So and then people who look at our GitHub, they won't be able to see the actual words lah. Because if they can see this, that means they can use your Firebase also, and then they can like manipulate it. So what we want to do is we want to store these as variables, and to make sure that we have this prefix, so React can detect it. Okay. Then this is like from a previous project, so just feed in your variables, right? Demo storage bucket. So all this not so important to know now, but it's basically just skills that your app requires to access your Firebase. Okay. And then what we can do next is we will just refer to these from the from the application itself. Okay. So you will just replace this config with all of these variables, right, through the env file. For this, actually, we have to also make sure that we have a package called .env. So npm install.env. Okay, so now we have this. Never mind. So okay, we just make sure that the app still works. Okay. I think the S is from here. Yep. Okay, so now our app is more secure. We can move on to the next steps. Next, we want to just ensure that we have Firebase admin. So why is because we want to use the packages from Firebase, and we want to use that to initialize our application. And it's done. So I'll show you what we can use it for later. Okay, so now we're at the application, and what we'll do is we want to just create a component that we'll use. So landing page.js is where we will be displaying all the details about the application. And this is just classic like functional syntax for React application, right? So we can reference the landing page here, and I believe if we just return a division, let's say hello team, and this will refer to that component. What happens is it's reflected here, right? So the good thing about React is that we can make everything components, and then we can refer to them. So this is just the basic. So what we're gonna do now, okay, let me just show the end product where you can do posts, right? So what we can do is uh you can go to the component itself. Then what we'll do is we'll take some I'll do out some code. The first thing we'll do is actually to just hold on. We want to fetch data from React. Okay, so we will be using this thing called use effect, right? So we want to firstly import the React component, and then what we'll do afterwards is we'll also import use effect. So use effect it typically triggers a function at certain times during your application, and for this we'll be triggering a fetch data to fetch data from the Firebase Firestore, and this will happen every time the database updates. So these are like Firebase components, which we will just be fetching, right? And we will also want to import um, import the details from Firebase config. So we have the app here. This is what we want to import. Okay. Then also we also want to initialize the database. So by using get Firestore, we can connect our application to Firebase. Next thing is we want to store all the posts that we have. So um, so as you see just now, we will be querying Firebase to get the documents, right? And this is the DB that we connected to. This is the collection that we will be creating. So it will be called post. Okay. And then what happens is that we have a temporary array, and we will take one post by one post and push it into the temporary array, and we will store this within our front end. So how we'll do is we can store it as a state. So we'll use post, set post, and we'll basically store an empty array for a start. Okay. So post will be stored in our application as a React state. Okay, and then next we can actually represent this in our database. So instead of returning this, we will create post. So this uses so we fetch the post into a temporary array, and we set it into our application as post. And then after which we will be using it. We will be mapping the data, the array, into individual posts, where each post has a title, has an image URL, has a description, etc. So next, what we'll be doing is that um, currently we don't have any posts, and also we don't have the relevant styling. So let me just bring it in. So we have an app.css. We want to just remove everything and replace it. This will have the CSS for the post, for the title, image, etc. And then for the index.css, it's just the more app level styling. So have the background color over here. So now with the background color, and next what we will do is we will be connecting the application. So okay, just for demonstration, could do something like uh, so there's a title, right? The description, test. Hopefully be able to read from the database. Mm, okay, let me restart. Okay, so there's some errors. Okay, so we don't have a date yet, right? So yeah, see, this high and then test. And what we want to do now is that we want to implement the image functions, we want to implement the cloud storage, right? So let me also include the other parts. So how we will handle the logic for adding a new post, as well as just logging in and everything. So this will all be in the code base, so you don't have to worry too much about it. And essentially, now we have the post here, right? And then now we're going to create a section for the forms and everything. So let me just update this, and I'll kind of run through whatever we have. There are a few errors. So we don't really handle the login first. Just want to have logic. Okay. I also don't have this. And at the same time, we want to export um, this application that we have in the Firebase config. So we'll just add a export at the front. If for simplistic, I think I can just show the form first, right? Because it'll be complicated for us that. Okay. So what we have is we have uh, this section where we can add a new post to our like social media app. Then after which the relevant data will be placed down here. Okay. And then there's the other logic for fetching posts as well. Yep. So we have the part for creating the post and we have the post itself. So what we want to do now is we want to create the functionality for storage. So we'll go to cloud storage. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just get started in test mode as well. Same thing in Singapore for the cloud storage CDN. It'll take some time. Oh yeah, the final product should be like that, where you can log in, where you can create a post, and it will just be posted here. Okay. So this is storage. And what this will do is we will store the files here. So image files and etc. So now what we can do is that we will have to configure the storage. So in our Firebase config, we want to configure that. So we'll be also connecting our Firebase app to storage and get off. Okay. So we can start with storage. So now we have storage. We can actually import this into our application. Okay, from here next to our application. And then using that, we will be able to set up storage, right, in the form of submitting a post. So we can actually use all these now. And to show you the capabilities, firstly we'll be bringing all these packages in from Firebase storage package. And what we will do is in handle submit, we will just reference to our storage where we should have an images file. Let's create one images folder, I mean, and then this is where we store the images. So what we'll do is when we upload an image, we will upload the bytes onto Firebase and then we get the URL back. After which we can store this URL in our request, where we will save it in our other storage, our Firestore database. So let me just demonstrate it now. I think you'll get a clearer idea. Mm, so let's say testing, you put hi, and then you can use environment photo. When we submit, this will take some time, but it'll get uploaded to cloud storage. And it should be uploading to cloud storage with all these, the title, the description, the URL to cloud storage, and then the current date in the form of day, month, year, hour, and minute. Yeah, so it actually worked. And the reason is, okay, so let me explain the whole thing. So how we are doing this is that, okay, we have this form box, right? And then if it's loading, it will just say loading, as you saw just now. But other than that, it will just be a form where we say, we get the title, we get the image as a file, then we get the caption, and then we submit it. So on submit, we'll actually use this function that I was talking about earlier, handle submit, where we prevent the page from refreshing, and then if there's an image uploaded, so we'll check that by storing the image when the user chooses it here. Okay, so if there is an image, then we will want to try to upload it with the title and description. So after we have set the request, we will just upload it onto Firebase, and then we will reset everything. So we just make everything now. That's why our title is empty and our caption is empty after we submit it successfully. Just now it was high and high. Okay. And then if we check here, if we refresh, okay, so this has the image URL to this file over here. Okay. So I guess you can probably access it. We can access it by ourselves too. Yeah. So this is what our website is referencing from. Okay. So that's it with storage. It's quite simple. And the last thing I want to do is to do authentication. Okay. So we'll set it up like the other ones. We will look for authentication and we will get started here. So what authentication is that we will be setting up a system for users to log in through email and password. So enable email and password. Okay, and then what we have to do is from here, we want to update our configuration. So it is that easy. And all we have to do is that we have to add users that we want to allow login, right? Now we go to Firebase config and we want to add the get off ability. And then afterwards, we want to use our app that we initialize. And we want to use authentication. So for this, it's actually a bit harder. We want to create a of provider, which is essentially we will just wrap the whole application with this authentication to ensure that it is authenticated at all times. And what this is okay, we got the auth from the Firebase config file, right? And then afterwards, we want to ensure that everything that is under this wrapper, it will be authenticated if we log in, if we try to do anything. And it will be authenticated under this current user. And every time we start the application, okay, we will set the user to whatever is logged in. And what we'll do is we'll take this context and we'll wrap it around our entire app. So here, Now the whole app is authenticated, or rather it has the authentication ability if we do the login, etc. Right? So now what we can do is we can just uh, add the different forms for logging in and registration. Okay, so we replace this with the this is the form just now, and then this is registration, and this is logging in. And then at the same time, we want to manage the logic for those. So we can handle sign up and handle login. Okay. Now that we have this, we also want to make sure that we use the auth that we exported just now. And also we want to bring in the auth context from the auth provider. And lastly, we want to communicate with Firebase through these functions in Firebase auth. Okay. Next, what we'll be doing is we'll be using that context that we brought here into our application. You can use the current user that is talking. So there are some errors. Didn't say. Um, okay, we also didn't import this. Okay, so now what we have is we start with the login. So users have to log in first before they can create posts, right? So I'm going to register, and I'll just use my credentials to create an account, and automatically we're registered. So we can do the same thing, submit a post, and it automatically goes up, right? And then we can also just sign out, go back to login. If we use the same account, we can log in and create a post. And if you see in authentication, you should have a new user created. And the password is not exposed, so that's a good thing. This can be seen in the application. The logic is handled um, over here. So to sign up, we'll be using this thing called use callback, which just uh, makes the application faster, where we will just save this sign up data, but you don't really have to use callback. You can just take the event, the email and password from our form, and then we can create the user using that. So we pass in the email and password we filled in. Email and password, right? We can take it using the event that we passed in, so the form itself, and then we will call to Firebase and create an account. And we'll use this auth that we define here to really create the connection. Yeah. And similarly for logging in, right, we take the email and password from the form event. So this both of these will be passed into the code as email.value, password.value, and then we will just call the sign in function, which is also provided by Firebase. Okay. And then how we switch back and forth is that, okay, so by default we'll be in this screen, login screen, and then this form will have email and password and the submit button. Okay, then if you want to register, we just have this function state set needs register, and if set it to true, this will be triggered. So now it sees that, oh, I need to register, and it will show this instead. So this is the registration form where there's also email and password. And when we submit, we register an account. But if you want to go into login, you can just set it to false and it will display this. Okay. So for both, for login, when we submit the form, we'll use this function called handle login. When we sign up, we'll use this function called handle sign up. The ones that I just showed you earlier. And once we're authenticated, once there's a current user, then we will show this form, which is to create a post. So yeah. So now it sees that it's logged in and it will show this, allowing you to create a post. So the title, the image, where it uses a file type as the input, and then the description. These are the three fields that we have. And once we submit, we'll use the handle submit that we did earlier on. We'll submit the title, the description, the URL, all that. And now what we can do is, since we have the user, we can actually use the email and sort of identify the post. Okay. And then we can actually enable this poster, and we can enable the date also. Okay, so just to reset our post, since we have all this functionality now, let's save, let's check in, so we have no post, and what we'll do is new, new tag. Similarly, we'll use the environment picture and test. So now we're authenticated and we can post the date as well. Right. So that is actually all we have. And this is the final product. We can log in, we can register an account, we can create posts, and all of this will be handled in Firebase. Right. The image is stored here. So this, when we refresh, this is the only image that we have. Okay. Oh, this is it will actually store the images, but it stored this image as environment 1. Okay. And then all the posts we have is here. This is what we fetch from. And yeah, and then authentication is still handled the same way. So that's it for the workshop. And if you are still unsure, you can just check the GitHub, which we shared with you, where you can look at the whole code base and review. So it will take a while if I type out all the code. So I didn't manage to, but you can just refer from here. Okay, so this is the whole code base. And it's just one component with about 200 lines, so hopefully it should be manageable. So just doing one last run through of our code base. We have some of the states where we store the post here, the logic to whether the posts are done fetching. Okay. Then the image, title, and description, where when we want to post, okay, we just alter this. And when we are done with the post, then we reset this so that the form is empty. Oh, okay. Yeah. So these three fields. Need to register is to do the logic where we toggle between the login page and the register page. Okay, then we also have this function to sort the post by date. And then we replace post with sorted post. The newest post will be at the top, just like Instagram and all that. Then the current user, we use the authentication context that we created before, right? We use a context API from React, and we create a provider that wraps around the whole application, which is children. And when we start the app will check whether we're authenticated to the current user and will set that user, which we can use in any part of the application, which is what we're doing here, lah. When the image change, we want to update this state that stores our image name actually. When we log in, we use the function to log in with our email and password. When we sign up, we take the email and password as well, and we call the function to sign up. When we submit a post, we trigger the loading, okay, so that the user it's a bit more responsive lah. And then we take the image data, take the URL. Okay, we upload the image first, then we take the URL of it, and we store it in the request that we save in Firebase under Firestore database. Okay, this restore the user's name also. Add this document, this sends it here. And then we reset all the fields. And then afterwards, then we set loading to false. So we can create more posts. And then this fetches data every time the database updates. Right? When I create a post now, we don't have to refresh, it automatically updates and fetches again. And we have essentially the various forms, just 3 forms. They use a styling from our CSS. And then lastly is the posts, which are sorted by date, and we show the title, image URL, description, and the poster. Okay, so 220, 225. Yeah, so that's essentially it. And the configuration is here, where we ensure that our data is safe, and also just make sure that you put this in your .north, so .env. And if it's gray, you know that it won't be uploaded to GitHub. It's just in your local computer. Then the last thing, that's essentially it. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. But if any questions, just let me know also. Okay. Thank you.